If you don't know what you're doing, it's more time sometimes because your first one will be surfable, but it won't look like the stuff you buy. That's part of
Right.
what the price you're paying for is their experience and knowledge. So you don't have to go through the fuck ups. There's nothing like sitting on, even if it's a crappy board, a board that you know you made and conceived and thought of and dreamed and created.
Hey, lady, welcome to Confessions of a Surf Lady, a podcast by the Surf Society. For so long, women have been misrepresented by the surf industry, only highlighting a narrow and exclusive version of who a surf lady can be. But you and I both know that there is so much more to women surfing than that. This podcast right here is a place to tell our story, how we want to tell it. At Confessions of a Surf Lady, you'll meet everyday surf ladies doing amazing things in their local communities, as well as pros, world champs, big wave riders, and badass living legends from women's surf history, all sharing their stoke on this blossoming global women's surf culture. What's even more special, though, is that you, yes, you, will get a chance to participate in the conversation by leaving me your confessions. I'm your host, Laura Day. Think of me as your new favorite surf sister, connecting you to your beautiful global women's surf community, helping you boost your confidence before you head out for your next surf, and even dropping a few surf tips from the Surf Society along the way. If you want to stay connected with me, find me on Instagram. That's at Confessions of a Surf Lady. Kind of use that like my personal account. And then go ahead and follow at Surf Society. That's SURFSOCIETE. There, you'll find a handful of free resources to help you through your surfing journey. All right, lady, thanks again for joining me here at Confessions of a Surf Lady, where we're cultivating a global women's surf culture through thoughtful conversation. Let's get to our episode, yeah? Hey, lady, it's your host, Laura Day. In this episode, you are going to meet my good friend, Ben. I've known Ben for a while, and he is such an inspiring person. Despite having no background or heritage in surfboard shaping, Ben decided he wanted to learn how to shape. After doing some research, Ben hooked up with his local surf supply shops, purchased a how-to DVD, and just went for it. 4 years later, he's got a shaping shed in his backyard in Orange County, and he continues to work on his craft. The recording you're going to hear today is just a part of a live event we had at the Surf Society, where Ben joined us in our Surfcraft series to talk about breaking down the barriers to surfboard shaping. Inside the Surf Society, our Surfcraft series was all about giving the information, the context, and the tools for you to be able to walk into any store and have a confident conversation about surfboards. Or maybe even pick up surfboard shaping yourself. To get access to this entire conversation and so much more, you have to become a member at the Surf Society. The Surf Society is our online community where we get together to learn more, surf better, and live happy. And I would love to have you there to become a member, get access to this entire conversation, and so much more. You can join us for your first week free. All you have to do is click the link in the show notes, create your account, log in, and come hang out with us. All right, so you know what to do. Hit that link in the show notes, and let's get to our episode, yeah? Thank you so much for joining us here at Confessions of a Surf Lady, also in the Surf Society. Welcome, ladies. Thank you so much for joining us on this conversation. Super excited to have Ben here. Actually, a couple of years ago, Ben, right? I was like, hey, do you want to come be on my platform? And you had just started shaping, or maybe we're a couple of years into shaping.
Yeah, because you're 4 years and I'm almost 4 years shaping.
Yeah, right from the beginning. And Ben was like, yeah, think about it. And then he messages me back and he's like, you know what? I don't think I'm ready. And I was like, okay. And so this time when we were going to the Surfcraft series, I was like, hey, Ben, a couple of years ago, you said you're not ready. What do you think about it now? He's like, let's do it. So I love it because I think we both keep moving towards our passions.
Yeah, you really stuck with your podcast, and I love listening to it. I'm glad you've kept with it. I'm sure it's a challenge, like doing everything while working normal stuff to like pay for things. Like food.
Sounds like you can relate to that similar challenge.
Yeah, when you gotta do. And if you ladies run a business or started your own or have a lot of projects for your own work you do, you know how it can be like juggling so much stuff and having to wear a lot of hats. So yeah, I'm excited.
Let's start from the beginning. You want to talk about your journey into surfing and what that was like?
I'm from Orange County, California. Surfing is everywhere here. It's like football for the Midwest or places like that, maybe NASCAR for the South. It is everywhere and is a part of your culture. And I don't ever really remember telling my parents I want to surf. I just remember always being at the beach. My parents had me learning to swim before I could walk. I have always been in the water and around the water. The people that lived across the street, the dad and that family loved surfing. My parents are not water or beach people at all. I don't think I've ever seen my dad in the water ever. And my mom is from the Pacific Northwest and cannot handle the sun of Southern California. So, like, she was not a beach lady. And no one else in my family surfs or had a desire to. So it's weird that it was something that I wanted to do. But being transgender, when I hit puberty, like that wasn't cool with me. Swimming, things that I loved, you wear things that are rather revealing. Wetsuits, bathing suits. You can't hide things in that very well. So I kind of gave it up. And then when I came back from San Francisco in 2010, my girlfriend at the time, I was kind of depressed. There was so much stuff to do, and there was so much LGBTQ community up there. You go to the Castro and they have a giant rainbow flag flying, and when it's Pride, all down Market Street, they have rainbow banners and just all this stuff, and you never feel really more welcome than when you are around people that are like you, and you don't feel like you have to hide anymore. So you get this sense of community. So when I moved back down here, there's not really things like that in Orange County. And I am not going to drive to LA for stuff. Like trying to drive there is just crazy if you know what that's like. So she was like, why don't you get back into surfing? So I found a cheap surfboard at a flea market and started surfing again. And it just snowballed from there. In 2015, I wanted a new surfboard. And so I started Googling like where you could buy surf supplies and all this stuff and how to make a surfboard. And I found out that 5 miles from my house is at least 2 surf supply places. Another one in Costa Mesa. There's one down in San Clemente. There was just such an easy access to get to the supplies that I needed. And I started shaping, and the shaping is the easiest part. Like, not saying creating it is easy and keeping it symmetrical, but you can literally take a year to shape a surfboard. The hard part comes when you go to glass the board. And when I first started learning in 2015 was the hardest to find how to do. There is a DVD set that you can buy from like the 90s by John Carpenter. He's in Hawaii and he teaches how to shape a board, but it's nothing compared to what you find on YouTube now. Not pretty edits, not nothing. It's a single camera and this guy's legit working Hawaii shaping shop showing you what to do. And so I had watched that to learn how to shape in 2015 and just did it. But with the glassing part, that part's the hardest because you have resin and then you have catalyst. And as soon as you pour the catalyst in the resin, you have about 12 minutes to finish doing what you're doing before the stuff starts to cook and become gooey before it becomes hard. Grant Noble put it best. He was all, it's anxiety in a bucket. And it really is. Because you can really like mess your board up. And I have messed boards up because my roommate, okay, I just did that taxi cab board for her.
Yeah.
Well, that's the second time I had shaped and made that because the first time I went to glass the deck, I don't know what the hell I did, but I doubled my catalyst amount and dumped it in there, which makes it cook faster. And so like I'm working on it and I'm like, fuck, this doesn't look right and stuff. I'm all, oh my God, what did I do? And it just totally fucked up the whole board and stuff. And I had to like start all over and buy a new blank and start all over. But I have literally just been like, I'm doing this, and I bought the supplies and I just started and haven't stopped since. Because
Cool.
for me, I feel like this is an odd calling from God. Like within my first year, I had a magazine cover with Orange Coast magazine. And when I doubt myself, there's two people that I really think of. Tanner Prairie, he saw my very first board that I shaped. I didn't glass it, but I shaped it. And when he saw it, he felt the rails like you do, and he felt them really good. And he's been shaping since he was like 17. So probably like 13, 15 years. And he whips around and he looks at me and he goes like, you shaped these rails? And I was like, yeah, I did, expecting something. But later I was like, oh God, he said that because they're actually good. And then I was kind enough to have good compliments from Brian Bent and stuff about my shapes. And he's very supportive. And he, at least for me, is like the Picasso of surf art. So if Picasso tells you your shit's good, then you keep going with it and you just suffer through the mistakes and just keep going for it.
I think you were the perfect person to really talk about this barrier to entry, to like getting into shaping. I think that's a big question for people. How do I start doing it? Here, I posted about it the other week. We have a class at UCSD, and Paul, who you met, would, I'm sure, happily, if I asked him, like, would you help me? Would, as a mentor. But I love that you were literally like, I bought a DVD. Like a DVD.
When I started in 2015, I didn't have a job at the time. So the idea of making mistakes glassing when you don't have an income, I'm like, I can't afford to throw shit away. So I stopped doing it. Surfboard shaping and surfboard building, unless you're one of these kids that they think will be a Grant Noble or an Alex Nost or this or that, they won't let you in necessarily. Yeah. And if they do, they kind of haze you. But that's how men are. Men haze each other. They want to know who's tough and who's a baby, because throughout history for them, their lives will depend on the people that they are with. Because you're at war, you're out in nature doing things. If this baby won't be able to save you, then they are a liability. Now, I'm not saying you should always act that way, but going to jujitsu and being around nothing but men, I understand from their point of view a long-term evolutionary grain that has been reinforced within their mind.
Besides doing like DVDs and like Googling and just looking it up and doing it yourself, did you at any point reach out to anyone to mentor you for shaping, or have anyone come in and offer that to you?
There's a guy on Instagram named Michael Soleil. He is from Washington area, Pacific Northwest, like Seattle. If I have questions, he deals mostly with epoxy while I use the polyurethane stuff. But if I have questions on things, I can totally message him and he'll be like, oh, here's what you did wrong. There's also Natasha from Island Stream Glassing. She's in Ventura. I don't know if you've heard of Roar Surfboards, but he also glasses there. And so they're cool people. I can ask them. And then Matt Kazuma Conchita in Maui. He was trained by Ben Ipa. He's been shaping for like 30 years. And he has a great Instagram account, and he just goes on there and posts reels and information for whoever wants to watch. And he's very cool about if you have a question, like, hey, can I get some advice? He'll full on answer back as soon as he can. And I asked him some advice on fin placement for a stinger I did, sting board. And he full on was like, yeah, let me see the shape and the fins. I'll give you some advice and stuff like that. So those three people are really awesome.
That's awesome. I never thought I would be interested in shaping. Not necessarily never, But they used to have Shaper Studios down here. They've closed since it's been a couple of years.
Okay.
But you could go in there and basically have someone kind of help you, mentor you through shaping a board. It costs a couple
Okay, like a
$1,000 or
lesson.
whatever. Yeah. And I was always kind of like, if I paid that much, I would want someone who's been shaping a long time to be the person that would do it, that like knows what they're doing. But the more that I've been exposed to what surfboard shaping is, like the craftsmanship of it, the more interesting it becomes to me. Paul, which was our surf guide, you met Paul.
Yeah.
He basically at some point decided that he would never, not that he decided, but he could get the materials for so inexpensive that he would just shape his own boards.
It does work out price wise, but then if you don't know what you're doing, it's more time sometimes, because your first one will be surfable, but it won't look like the stuff you buy. That's part of what the price you're paying for is their experience and knowledge, so you don't have to go through the fuck ups. There's nothing like sitting on, even if it's a crappy board, a board that you made and conceived and thought of and dreamed and created.
Imagine this. What if you felt empowered to establish your place in intimidating lineups? What if you developed the mental toughness to surf new locations in challenging conditions so you could surf more often, catch more waves, and have more fun in every session? What if you had the knowledge and the physical skill to catch and ride more waves so you could practice maneuvers like cross-stepping, nose riding, trimming, carving, and ultimately become a better surfer on the wave? Last but not least, what if you had a sisterhood of friendships with women all over the world who support your growth in the lineup? Women who are passionate about the sport and the lifestyle and know how to have fun, but also bring quality conversations to the table that help you push your surf skills and celebrate your wins. All of this is a part of being a member at the Surf Society, which is my women's online community that was really inspired by this podcast. So if you love this podcast, you are going to love the Surf Society. Join us for your first week free by hitting the link at the top of the show notes, because I would love to see you there. Whether you had an epic surf session or some epic wipeouts, it's pretty impossible to avoid that tangled post-surf hair. But with Dip's After Swim and Surf Conditioner Bar, you never again have to give up a good hair day. Just run that conditioner bar through your wet post-surf hair and let it soften and detangle those beautiful locks. This bar, along with Dip's range of hair care products, work for all hair types, lasts super long, and better yet, this hair care company is so good that plastic-free is just a bonus. Head to dipalready.com and pick up your conditioner bar and get free shipping when you use the code CONFESSIONS at checkout. I'll have that link in the show notes for you. Shaping your own boards changed your relationship with surfing? And then also, do you feel like it's made your surfing better?
I feel like jujitsu has made my surfing better because of the footwork and stuff like that. And then when I'm getting slammed by 230-pound guys and I weigh like 125, when you go surfing and the wave is like 5 foot, you're all, this isn't going to hurt nothing like the big old like Filipino guy that crushes down on me like 3 days a week. So it removes fear from things because you have like a comparison of stuff, of what hurts and what doesn't hurt. But surfing and shaping for me, we live in a time right now where people are very spiritual about things. And whether it's true or just a trend or this or that, I can, at least from my experience, I do this because when I go surfing and when I'm in the ocean, that is the closest I truly feel like you can get to God's energy and the energy of the universe that flows within everything. When you catch that wave, that sensation, that feeling, there are legit like ions flying and like atoms and stuff swirling around you in this energy that is coming from thousands and thousands of miles, that is really unseen because it's not the water that moves, but the energy underneath. And the energy underneath is what you're writing, is this thing that's created all this way out and it comes all this way. And at the very last moment of its energy, you get to play with it. I don't know if you ever go swimming in the water, just go to the beach and get some fins and go swimming. If you've ever like been in the water when this wave just rushes past you and you just feel this like energy that you never feel anywhere else in anything that you do, because nothing else allows you to ride a wave. All of life is waves, sound, light, everything is in a wave form. And this is a wave that you can ride.
Yeah, it's absolutely a unique experience. Like you really can't replace it with anything else. Like there's no other sport that comes close.
And
it's
I
pretty
feel
crazy.
like there was a reason why the Hawaiians saw it as something sacred. When they made surfboards, not just anyone could make a surfboard. You had to be a priest, and there were rituals and ceremonies, there were launching parties, and it was a special thing. And it's gone from this holy, sacred thing that we took from these people and now make millions while they live in poverty. If I do make anything from this business, it's solely so that I can provide jobs to people that want to do this and maybe don't find a way of getting into it. And also so that I can provide ways of helping other people, like with scholarships or like to give back to the people of Hawaii for this gift that we've just taken. And like, it must be hard to watch like $1 billion pro contests and they're just living in tents.
Yeah. I mean, I think having the intention of what you're saying is you've been given not even just the gift of surfing, like we all have, but this opportunity to really practice this craft of shaping, like what you mentioned, a sacred ritual, and being able to turn around and then give that back in another way is really beautiful, which honestly, I think that's really at the core what surfing is about. And that's the hard part when there is certain types of, I don't love using the word gatekeeping, but gatekeeping or like leaving outsiders and the insiders. And you talked about if you're not from a shaping family, if you don't know somebody that shaped, or you didn't have that DVD you could buy, you don't have that point of entry.
Or you came to surfing late and you're not this little 12-year-old that they're like, oh yeah, I totally can mold you into whatever. You're like, oh, I'm 35 and I really like surfing and I would really like to build boards or whatever, but I'm not this like trendy kid on Instagram or whatever. Or like, I hate being at a computer. I hate sitting at a desk. I need to be up and moving. If you can give people jobs that make them feel good and they feel happy about it and it makes them feel worth something, then that goes out into everything else.
Absolutely. Not just financially, but in positive energy wise. So the other reason why I'm super interested in it too is because I've done a lot of crafts work, right? I've done like a lot of woodworking and built different things, converted a camper van, all that, right? So to me, I'm like, even with clothing, so you guys have templates, we have patterns. They're very similar in the sense though, clothing's very complicated because of the nature of the material, because of the way it drapes in the body. But that's when I see surfboard shaping, even having gone to these classes and I start learning about it. And I'm like, it can become as complicated as you want it. But the basics of it is fairly simple. It is a board and you whittle it down into a shape that you want to ride and surf. And then you wrap it with glass. And I think that in itself was like, oh, it removed the mystery for me. It was like, oh, I can do this.
Yeah, no, you can. Anyone can do this. It is not like a difficult thing. I only say it's, if you're not familiar with power tools, like using a planer, an electric planer, it may seem intimidating, but you just take it slow, not rush it, and just enjoy the process. And you'll probably be more surprised with what you can make than not. Like if fucking Tanner Prairie was like, oh, my first board sucked and it was all like wobbly and stuff, but his parents still have it and he's still shaping today. And all these other people, even people that are led by a teacher or a mentor, they can tell you what to do all day long. But until you actually do it and learn how to hold stuff and do the angles and all this, then it's not until you do it that you do it.
And it's like any craft. I was talking to Paul about this. I was like, I can already see, knowing my personality based on the other projects I've done, I can already see the moment where I overshape. Like, like I already know that's going to happen.
No, that's why you have to start selling them. You just be like Ryan Birch I read this article. He was like, I like making asymmetrical boards because I don't have to pay attention to whether it's perfectly symmetrical. So you just become an asymmetrical surfboard shaper. And then as
There
you
you
get
go.
better, then become a symmetrical surfboard shaper, So
That's it.
like
How many boards have you shaped?
under
You
my
account?
weight, like 65. I have a notebook that I keep track of them all in. Because I was a kid, I probably would have gone to this anyways, but being transgender with that gap and stuff, it didn't work out, I guess you would say. But when I'm into something, I get really obsessed and stuff.
Yeah.
So, and there's a documentary called The Boardroom, and it's just a documentary where they interview Bing Copeland, Terry Martin, Greg Knoll, freaking Rennie Yater, all these guys that we now would consider famous or the forefathers of surfboard shaping, and they would keep notebooks. You can go to Bing's surfboard shop, you can take any Bing.
Yeah.
I know surfing in the moment, it's just like jujitsu. It's easy to say, like, okay, I'm going to do this bottom turn and I'm going to go to the top and I'm going to walk to the nose. You can think that all day long, but it becomes hard in your mind sometimes to break out of the old habit and do the thing you don't know how to do.
One of the things we talk about at the Surf Society, and I think the biggest thing that I've realized through Surf Society is, and I'm very familiar with like artistic process and project process, right? You have a process, you have to go through the pains of that to learn a craft or to get something done. But that's, I think, the biggest gift that I've learned from Surf Society is like, this is just one big process. There's no linear line where I'm going to get to this goal. It's going to be this wavy kind of thing. And it's totally okay. And the moment you embrace it, the more fun you get to have with every single step, right? And I imagine that's like shaping and anything that you ever build. It's if you can call it asymmetrical, if you can embrace that process, you are just going to keep moving forward. Nothing's going to stop you. Yeah. I think that's the thing, having the moments where you look back. Or you look back at your notebook, or you think back to if you have pictures from surfing and you look at that and you're like, oh, wow, like I have made those steps incrementally.
Yeah.
Very easy to get stuck. And this is what I'm working on. This is where I'm at. But looking back is really great. That's another thing I love about this group is because we'll see each other surf. Like we'll meet like a couple times a year sometimes. And if one person that hasn't seen somebody surf for 3 or 4 months or 6 months will be like, oh my God, you got so much better. Like you did the thing you said you wanted to do. And it's really, really cool. There was a time I was shopping for a log. I'm like, okay, I'm going to shop for a log, right? And I was kind of asking the girls, I'm like, hey, like, what's your experience? What should I look out for? What should I think about? Danielle actually said something really good. And she's like, just remember that your next board might do some things that you like, but the board after that might do other things that you like. So it doesn't have to be like your next board does it all, or you don't have to get everything right on your next board. And there's always trade-offs.
What's the log like that you have? How long is it?
So this one's a 9.6. It's a Hobie. Okay. It's totally a nose rider. Well, the really good thing is the last time I saw footage of myself, I realized that if I don't choose a good line from the beginning, I'm stuck in that line because I can't maneuver it out of the line quickly enough. So my next goal was like, you know what? I'm going to just focus on choosing the best position on the wave to get me in the best line versus getting into it and then trying to figure it out. Using that, it's actually made me refine. Okay, watch this wave from all the way out back. It's tough when there's people that you're also competing with. But then again, I see people in busy lineups that are doing that. They're choosing the best waves. They're choosing the best spots on the best waves. They're moving around with authority and everybody else is moving out of the way. Because it shows they know exactly where they need to be. So I was like, it's possible. It's totally possible in a crowded lineup.
Yeah, you're doing stuff in ways that you are not used to. So your body's equilibrium is also not used to it, which is also another reason why I love jujitsu, because you get thrown around a lot. So you have to learn to catch yourself and balance in ways that you don't normally do because people are trying to topple you and throw you and roll you, and you have to put your feet down and balance and hold yourself up in weird, funny positions.
It was an interesting thing. I'm working on that cross step And Joanne, one of the other girls in Surf Society, we were talking about my video footage. And there's this point where she was like, you're going to have to be way lighter on your step, but it's so awkward because that's not how the body moves. She's like, I don't know. There are different things that people have told me. They don't always click. You're just going to have to find what clicks for you. But it was so satisfying for her to be like, what you're doing is super normal. That's what your body wants to do. You literally have to counteract what your body wants to do to get off the nose. Yeah, it was so crazy. I was like, now that I know that, at least I can relate to that and be like, everybody gets to this point. I'd love to open it up for you ladies are welcome to unmute and ask Ben anything you want, especially about getting into shaping. Does anyone have any questions?
So in the surfboard shaping room, why is it that style? Like I've seen green rooms, blue rooms. It's like this specific style of room that you are shaping in. Is there a reason why it's like that?
So the color, you can pick pretty much any color you want. The color is just used so that when you're looking at the board while shaping it, the white from the foam is separate and you can see the shape of the rails. You need a contrast to the white, and green's just the color most people picked. I have like a black color because I like black. That is to help just see the board while you're working on it.
What is the biggest challenge that you have by creating those rails for that one person?
If you're a decent shaper, you shouldn't have too much of a challenge, because when you cut out the outline, you have a square box. And then depending on how you want to surf, where you surf, you then you pick like an apex. So traditional logs will have 50-50. And that only means that like it meets in the middle. If you have more aggressive, like short boards or retro fish, they'll have a 60-40 or even 70-30. And that just means you're going further down and you're going to have more of a rounded top and less of a rounded bottom.
I would be really interested in a surfboard shaping lesson, because if I understand, so many of you have been surfing for a long time. I've only been surfing 3 years and I'm 29. Haha. And so in my heart, I'm 29. My previous life was, I grew up with horses, broke horses, broke Mustangs, broke them, and then they broke me. It's kind of the similar style. So when you are riding, you're ready to catch a wave and you flip that board around, it's the same thing with the horse.
It
know?
No, it is. It feels exactly like that.
It's still an 8-second ride, no matter what. But no matter if you're riding a horse or a surfboard, Yeah.
I have always thought it was interesting that, at least in Greek mythology, that Poseidon is the god of the oceans, but he is also the god of horses. I've always found it interesting that to them, they've chosen something for this deity that was very similar in sensation. So
but that feeling of having, that knowing horses and what your anticipation is, like what you're trying to anticipate on the wave. So I actually made my own saddle and like got into leather work. It's kind of the same process.
Yeah. You would probably take to it pretty easy if someone explained it to you, because you are like, I feel like if you can at least make something, like Laura, you can sew. So the idea of like allowing allowances so that when you shape the board in, when you're finally done, it's at the size you want, versus like, oh, damn, I wanted 23 and now I'm like 22 3/4, and like, okay, cool. When you get better, like any craft, you want to be more dead on with it. All it really needs is just a mind willing to learn and just being able to understand you're going to make mistakes and just like, okay, cool. And just like get through it and figure out how to make it work and fix it.
Thank you very much for answering my questions.
Oh yeah, no problem. Anytime.
Quick question. How long did it take you to get set up? Because you've got a shed in your yard.
I started in my parents' garage. I just made the decision one day and went and bought a blank. And then I came home and I was like, so I'm going to shape this surfboard in the garage. Can you move your truck? And so like my dad moved his truck, and then I like shaped one. My first one I didn't glass because I wasn't ready for that. But I took it down to Foam Easy, and I think I got maybe a mile. And then I was like, God damn it, I want to make another one. And I flipped a U-turn, and like I went back and I picked up another blank, and then I've just been doing it since that.
Thank you so much for coming on and sharing your journey with us and just showing us that, like, if we want to shape, anybody out there, anyone can do it. And
Yeah,
I think the fact that you
absolutely.
just went, did it, grabbed the stuff, and you're still doing it, I'm super proud of you and stoked to follow
Thank you.
your journey.
Thank you. Yeah, not just shaping, but anything. If you want to do it, just find a way to do it and stick with it if you really want to do it, and just learn from your mistakes. And that's the cool thing about online. I know people can be like, oh, it's horrible and stuff, but use it like a tool, and
Sure.
find a community and find people. If it's quilting or knitting or surfing or surfboard shaping or anything, it's a great way to find and meet people and talk to people. So, yeah, thanks for having me on, though. It was a lot of fun.
Of course. Yeah.
All right, lady, thank you for joining us on this special conversation at the Surf Society. I hope that you're really leaving feeling empowered to pursue any project that you want to pursue. So thank you so much, Ben, for sharing your story and encouraging us to pursue our passions. If you, our listeners, would like to reach Ben, you can follow him on Instagram. That's at Soto Surfcraft. You can also visit his website, sotosurfcraft.com. If you loved what you heard today and you would like access to the entire conversation, including the rest of our Surfcraft series, which includes workshops on shop and shaper conversations, so learning how to have a conversation in the shop or with a shaper to make sure that you get the right board for you. The second one is all about shapes and styles. So what kind of surfboards are out there? What shapes should you be curious about? We also have a workshop on the nuances of surf construction, things like channels and defins and all sorts of funky design aspects that you might feel intimidated to ask about in your surf shops. We have all that there and so much more. So if you'd like to access that, you have to become a member at the Surf Society, which is our online community. You can get your first week free on me, and all you have to do is hit that link in the show notes at the very top, create your account, log in, and come hang out with us. You can find all those resources in the show notes. All right, lady, we've come to the end of our episode, but not the end of the conversation. After listening, I hope that you feel represented, empowered, and even better connected to your surf sisters in our beautiful surf lady community. Let's stay connected before our next episode. Follow me on Instagram at Confessions of a Surf Lady. And follow our amazing women's surf community where we get together to learn more, surf better, and live happy. That is at Surf Society, spelled SOCIETE. Last but not least, join us in our exclusive Surf Society platform. Join us for your first week free by clicking the link at the top of the show notes. Thank you so much for bringing your unique and beautiful self to our lineup at Confessions of a Surf Lady. I'll see you on our next episode. Your host, Laura Day.